Have you ever opened your mouth to speak English and suddenly your mind goes completely blank, even though you know the words? And then a second later, your brain starts running like a computer with too many tabs open. Is this the right tense? Is that phrase natural? What if I sound stupid? What if they think I am not smart? And in that moment, English feels hard. Not because you do not understand English, but because your brain is trying to do everything perfectly all at once in real time in front of another person. If that sounds like you, I want you to know something right away. You are not broken. You are not bad at English. You are just overthinking. And honestly, that is one of the most human things in the world. I have watched so many adults go through this same cycle. They can read articles, watch videos, follow meetings, understand jokes, understand fast speech. And then the moment they need to respond, it is like their confidence disappears. And what I notice is that the people who struggle the most are often the people who care the most. They want to be accurate, they want to sound professional, they want to be respected, they want to represent themselves well. So they put pressure on every sentence. Like every sentence is a performance. And pressure does not create fluency. Pressure creates tension. And tension makes your brain grab for control. That is when the translating starts. That is when you start building a sentence in your head, word by word, like you are assembling furniture without instructions while someone is watching you. Of course, it feels hard. Let me say something really clearly. Speaking is not the same as knowing. Speaking is a physical skill. It is timing, rhythm, habit, comfort. And if your brain treats speaking like a test, you are going to feel blocked. Because tests are about being right. Conversations are about being understood. Conversations are about connection, and connection is messy sometimes. Real life is messy. Native speakers forget words. Native speakers change their sentence in the middle. Native speakers start over. Native speakers say, "Wait, what was I saying?" It is normal. But when you are learning to speak more comfortably, you do not give yourself permission to be normal. You think you must be perfect to be acceptable. That is a heavy way to live in a language. And before we go deeper, if you enjoy this calm, supportive style and you want more episodes where you can relax and let your English get more natural just by listening, you can subscribe. No pressure at all, just if it feels good to have this kind of voice in your ear sometimes. Now let us talk about overthinking because I want you to see it clearly. Overthinking usually looks like this. You are about to speak and your mind starts checking everything. Vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, accent, speed, politeness, tone, confidence. It is like your brain is running a full quality control inspection on a sentence that has not even been spoken yet. And while it is doing all of that, the moment passes. The other person is waiting. You feel the silence. Your heart rate goes up a little. And now you feel even more pressure. So you try to produce an even better sentence. That is when it really gets stuck. It is not a lack of English. It is too much English in your head at the same time. A lot of adults also carry this quiet fear of being judged. Not just judged as a speaker, but judged as a person. Because in your first language, you are quick. You have humor, you have opinions, you have personality. You know how to handle awkward moments. You know how to be charming or direct or warm. You know how to be you. And then in English, suddenly you feel smaller, you feel slower, you feel less interesting. And that is painful, so you try to protect yourself by preparing, by planning, by controlling. That makes sense, and that is your brain trying to keep you safe. But the problem is, speaking does not work well when it is controlled too tightly. Fluency needs space. It needs breath. It needs a little trust. Think about a normal situation. You are at work, someone asks you, "How is the project going?" You understand the question perfectly, but you want to answer in a way that sounds professional and clear. So you start searching for the perfect words. You want to say something like, "We are making good progress, but we are waiting for approval, and the timeline might shift slightly, but we have a plan." That is not even a complicated message, but in your head, it becomes complicated because you are trying to produce it as one perfect package. Meanwhile, the person is just standing there expecting a normal human response. You could simply say, "It is going well. We are on track, but we are waiting for approval, so the timing might change a bit." That is it, but overthinking tells you, no, that sounds too simple. You need better words. You need longer sentences. You need to sound advanced, and that is the trap. You do not need to sound advanced. You need to sound clear. You need to sound like yourself. Another common situation is traveling. You walk into a cafe and you want to order. You already know what you want, but then your brain starts thinking, should I say, could I have? Or can I get, or I would like, and is it rude if I say give me? Is my pronunciation okay? And suddenly, ordering coffee feels like giving a presentation. And the funny part is, the person behind the counter is not analyzing your grammar. They are listening for keywords. Latte, oat milk, small, to go, that is it. But when you are overthinking, you forget that communication is often very simple. Your brain tries to make it complicated because you are trying to avoid mistakes. But mistakes are not dangerous. They are normal. They are part of speaking. So why does overthinking show up so strongly in adults? Because adults are used to being competent. In your life, you have skills, you have knowledge, you have experience, you know what you are doing. And then English makes you feel like a beginner again. Not in understanding, but in expressing. And that feeling can be uncomfortable, even embarrassing. So you try to get back to competence as fast as possible by mentally controlling your speech. But the way out is not control. The way out is comfort. I want you to imagine two different energy levels. One is tight, careful, holding your breath, trying to get it right. The other is relaxed, curious, willing to try, willing to adjust. Fluency grows in the second one. And I know that sounds like a mindset quote, but it is very real. When your body is tense, your voice gets tense, your breathing gets shallow, your mouth gets tighter. Your brain has less space. When your body relaxes, your voice flows more easily. Even your pronunciation improves when you are calmer because your mouth moves more naturally. So overthinking is not just a mental habit, it is a whole body experience. Let me give you something that helps many people, and instead of trying to build perfect sentences, Start speaking in small, honest pieces. And in real conversations, that is what native speakers do all the time. They start, they adjust, they add detail, they correct themselves if needed. For example, if someone asks you what you did this weekend, you do not need to deliver a beautiful story. You can start with something simple and true. Honestly, I took it easy. I was pretty tired. I stayed home, did some chores, and then I met a friend for coffee, and that is natural, that is fluent. And if you forget a word, you do not stop the whole story. You go around it. You say, I went to that place, the small cafe near the station. Or, I watched this show, I cannot remember the name, but it was really good. That is real speech. That is not failure. That is normal communication. And one of the biggest shifts I want for you is this. Stop treating speaking like writing. Writing gives you time. Writing lets you edit. Speaking is live. Speaking is more like dancing than like writing. And if you stop in the middle of a dance to plan the next move perfectly, the dance disappears. You have to move even if the move is not perfect, and you can recover. You can continue and you can smile and keep going. Speaking is the same. Overthinking also comes from this belief that there is one correct sentence, like you have to find the one right answer. But English is flexible. There are so many ways to say the same thing. If you are searching for one perfect option, you will feel stuck. Instead, choose a simple option and say it. Simple sentences are not childish. Simple sentences are powerful. They are clear. They are confident. They are what people use at work all the time. Think about leaders. They do not usually speak in complicated grammar. They speak in clear messages. That is what you want. Now, I want to talk about perfectionism because perfectionism is often hiding under overthinking. Perfectionism sounds like I do not want to make mistakes. But what it often means is I do not want to feel embarrassed. I do not want to feel exposed. I do not want people to see me struggle. And again, that is human. But perfectionism creates a strange rule. It says, if I cannot say it well, I will not say it at all. And then you speak less, and then you get less practice, and then speaking feels even harder. So perfectionism keeps you trapped. A gentler rule is this: I can speak imperfectly and still be respected. I can speak imperfectly and still be professional. I can speak imperfectly and still be intelligent. Because your intelligence is not your grammar. Your personality is not your accent. Your value is not your speed. People who are worth talking to understand that. And yes, sometimes you will meet someone impatient. Sometimes you will meet someone who interrupts, or someone who finishes your sentence, or someone who acts like they are in a hurry. That can happen. But that is not a sign you are failing. That is a sign they are not being very kind. And you do not need to carry that on your shoulders. Let us get very practical for a moment. When you feel overthinking starting, the first thing to notice is your breath. Many people hold their breath when they are nervous. Try to exhale before you speak. Even a small exhale. It tells your body, I am safe. Then start with a simple opener that gives you a second to enter the sentence. You can say, yeah, so honestly, I think, let me see, good question. These are natural phrases. They are not fillers in a bad way. They are bridges. Native speakers use them constantly. They give your brain time without silence feeling heavy. And then say the main message in a simple way, one idea at a time. Another thing that helps is to stop aiming for perfect vocabulary. Many learners believe they must always use the best word. But in real life, you can use an okay word. You can use a normal word. You can even use the wrong word and then fix it. People do that all the time. You can say, I was very, how do I say it? Disappointed. Or it was kind of stressful, like it made me nervous. You can describe instead of searching. Describing is fluent. Searching is not always fluent. And you do not have to punish yourself for searching, but you can learn to move forward even when the perfect word is not there. Let me tell you something I've seen over and over. Many adults think they need more vocabulary, but what they really need is more permission. Permission to be simple. Permission to pause. Permission to correct themselves. Permission to have an accent, permission to speak before they feel ready. Because fluency does not arrive first. Fluency comes because you speak, not before. And I know there is a fear here, and if I speak without thinking, I will say something wrong. Yes, sometimes you will, but you already do that in your first language too. Maybe not as much, but it happens. You misspeak, you choose the wrong word, you say something, and then you think, that is not exactly what I meant. So you clarify. Speaking is not about never making mistakes. It is about handling the moment. It is about staying with the conversation even when your sentence is not perfect. That is the skill. A lot of overthinking is also translation. You create the sentence in your first language, then you translate it into English, then you try to speak it. That takes time, and it often creates unnatural sentences because the structure is different. Here is the good news. You do not have to stop translating completely overnight. Translation is normal in the beginning, but you can reduce it by training yourself to think in ready-made English chunks. Not complicated grammar rules, just common phrases you can grab quickly. Things like, the main point is, from my perspective, I am not sure yet. It depends. I will get back to you. That makes sense. I agree with you. I see what you mean. I'm not familiar with that. Could you clarify? Give me a second. When you have these phrases ready, you do not need to build everything from zero. You can start speaking faster, and that reduces overthinking because you have momentum. Momentum is important because overthinking loves stillness. Overthinking loves that moment when you stop. When you stop, your brain panics and starts analyzing. When you keep moving, even slowly, your brain shifts into communication mode. So if you want something to remember, it is this. Start small and keep moving. Now let us talk about confidence because confidence is often misunderstood. People think confidence means you feel calm all the time. No. Confidence is often just willingness. willingness to speak even with a little nervousness, willingness to sound imperfect, willingness to try again if you mess up. That is confidence. Confidence is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that fear does not get to drive. And there is also something else. Many adults have a very harsh inner voice in English. They speak and then they immediately judge themselves. That was terrible. That sounded stupid. My grammar was wrong. My accent is embarrassing. And if you talk to yourself that way, of course you will freeze. If you were having a conversation with a person who criticized you after every sentence, you would stop talking to them. So why would you keep talking if that person is inside your head? You deserve a kinder voice. Try this instead. After you speak, ask yourself, did they understand me? Did I communicate the main idea? Did I stay in the conversation? If the answer is yes, that is success. And if the answer is partly, then you adjust next time. That is it. Keep it simple. Let us go into a few real situations so you can feel how this works in life. Imagine you're in a meeting and you want to share an idea. You have the idea clearly in your mind, but you are worried about how to say it. The overthinking version is waiting until you have the perfect sentence, and then the topic changes, and you miss your moment, and you feel frustrated. The more natural version is raising your hand or just jumping in with a simple entry like, "Can I add something here?" or "I have a quick thought." And then you say your idea in a basic structure. "I think we should do X because of Y." Or, "What if we tried X? It might help with Y." That is enough. People can ask questions. You can explain more. You do not need to give the entire perfect speech at once. Or imagine you are chatting with someone at a party or a work event. Someone asks, "So what do you do?" That question makes people panic because they want to sound impressive, but you can keep it human. You can say, "I work in marketing. I focus on social media." Or, "I am an engineer. Right now, I am working on a project related to energy." Then you can add, "It is pretty interesting," or "It keeps me busy." That is enough to continue. If they are curious, they will ask more. Conversation is shared. It is not your job to carry all of it with perfect language. Or imagine a daily interaction like calling a doctor, talking to a teacher, asking for help in a store. When you overthink, you feel like you must speak formally and correctly. But most of the time, you can speak simply and politely. "Hi, I have a question about my appointment." "Hi, I am looking for this item." "Hi, could you help me with something?" The beginning is easy, and once you start, you will usually find the rest. Starting is the hardest part because this is where fear lives. I also want to normalize something that nobody talks about enough. Sometimes you will feel fluent one day and block the next day. That is not a sign you are going backwards. That is just being human. Your energy changes. Your stress level changes. Your sleep changes. Your confidence changes depending on the situation and the people. Even native speakers feel awkward sometimes. So if you have a day where English feels heavy, do not make it mean something dramatic. Do not tell yourself, I am not improving. Instead, say, today my brain is tired. Today I am tense. Today I am going to keep it simple. That is maturity. That is emotional strength. Now, I want to talk about a habit that quietly makes overthinking worse. And it is the habit of replaying conversations in your head after they are over. You finish a conversation and then you start reviewing everything you said. You find mistakes. You imagine better sentences. You feel embarrassed. And you carry that feeling into the next conversation. This is so common, especially for adults who care about doing well. But it is not helping you, and it is training your brain to associate speaking with danger. If you want to review, do it kindly and briefly. Choose one moment and say, next time I will try this phrase. Great, then let it go. Because life is not an exam where you get points taken away. Conversations disappear, they move on. People forget your small mistakes very quickly. You are the one holding on to them. Here is another deep truth. Fluency is not a performance for other people. It is a relationship with yourself. The more you trust yourself, the more fluent you become. The more you allow yourself to be a real person in English, the more natural your English sounds. Because natural English is not perfect English. Natural English is comfortable English. So, how do you build trust with yourself? You keep promises to yourself in small ways. You speak even when it is not perfect. You do not abandon your sentence halfway and apologize too much. You allow yourself to pause without panic. You allow yourself to ask for clarification. You say, sorry, could you repeat that? Or, what do you mean by that? Or, can you say that in another way? These are not signs of weakness. These are signs that you are participating in real communication. I want to say something about pronunciation and accent too, because that is another place where overthinking gets loud. Many adults are afraid their accent will make them sound less professional, less intelligent, less credible. But an accent is not a problem. It is evidence of a life. It is evidence that you learned another way to communicate. That is impressive. The goal is not to erase your accent. The goal is to be understood and to feel comfortable. And comfort does more for pronunciation than anxiety ever will. When you feel stuck on pronunciation, the fastest way to lose fluency is to focus on every sound while you are speaking. Your mouth becomes tense. You slow down. You lose rhythm. Rhythm is a huge part of being understood. So instead, aim for clear rhythm and clear keywords. If you mispronounce a word and someone looks confused, you can repeat it more slowly or you can rephrase. That is what native speakers do when they are not understood. They do not collapse, they adjust. I remember a learner who told me, I feel like I have two personalities. In my language, I am funny and confident. In English, I am quiet and serious. And I understood exactly what they meant. Because when you are overthinking, you cannot access your natural personality. Your brain is too busy monitoring. So one of my favorite goals for adults is not perfect English. It is personality in English. That is when things become fun. That is when you stop feeling like you are acting and you start feeling like you are living. So, how do you bring personality back? You use simpler language and more real emotion. Instead of searching for advanced vocabulary, say what you actually feel. That was awesome. That was frustrating. I was relieved. I was annoyed. I was excited. I was nervous. Simple emotional words are powerful. They make you sound human. They make conversation easier. They also help you stop translating because emotion is immediate. You feel it first, then you speak it. Another powerful shift is to stop trying to be flawless and start trying to be present. Presence means you are listening, responding, reacting. You are not inside your head. You are with the person. And here is the thing. You do not need perfect English to be present. You can be present with simple English. Sometimes presence is just saying, really? No way. That makes sense. And tell me more, and I get it. Those small phrases create connection, and connection is the true goal of speaking. Now let us talk about speed, because many adults believe fluency means fast. But fluency is not speed. Fluency is smoothness. You can speak at a moderate pace and still sound fluent. In fact, speaking a little slower often sounds more confident, especially at work. When you rush, you make more mistakes and you feel more anxious. When you slow down slightly, you give your brain time to choose the next phrase naturally. You also sound clearer. So if you ever feel like you are falling behind in a conversation, do not panic and rush. Take your time. You are allowed to have a calm pace. And I want you to remember this. You do not need to say everything. You can be selective. In many situations, you can say less. If someone asks you a question, you can answer and stop. You do not need to add extra explanations to prove your English. Many learners do that. They keep talking because they want to show they can. But then they get lost and they make more mistakes and they feel worse. It is okay to answer clearly and then pause. Let the other person respond. Conversation is shared space. Now I want to do a little mental exercise with you. Imagine you are speaking to someone you trust completely. Someone who is kind and patient. Someone who is not judging you. Notice how your English feels in that imaginary situation. It probably feels easier. Your mind probably feels more open. That is because your brain is not in danger mode. So the real work is not only English, the real work is creating that feeling of safety in more situations. You can do that by reminding yourself, this is just a conversation. I do not need to be perfect. I am allowed to pause and I can say it a different way if needed. Those thoughts create safety. Safety creates flow. Let us also be honest about something. Some environments make overthinking worse. If you are speaking with someone who interrupts a lot, who corrects you constantly, who makes you feel rushed, your nervous system will react. That is normal. And in those situations, keep your sentences short. Use simple structures. Focus on being understood. And if you can, choose kinder conversation partners when you are practicing. Not because you are weak, but because practice should build you, not break you. A lot of adults also think they must fix everything before they speak. Like, I will speak when my grammar is solid, when my vocabulary is bigger, when my pronunciation is perfect. But that day never comes. Because speaking is how you develop those things in a living way. It is like saying, I will start going to the gym when I am already strong. No. You go to get strong. You speak to get fluent. There is also a beautiful moment that happens when you stop overthinking. You start noticing that you already have instincts in English. You already know what sounds right in many situations. Maybe not all the time, but more than you think. You have listened to so much English, your brain has patterns. But when you overthink, you do not let those patterns come out. You override them with analysis. So one of the most helpful practices is to answer faster sometimes, before your brain has time to build the perfect sentence. Not reckless, not careless, just faster. Trust your first simple answer. Your first answer is often more natural than the one you create after 30 seconds of pressure. Try it in low-stakes situations. When someone says, "How are you?" Answer quickly. "Pretty good, thanks." How about you when someone asks, "Do you want coffee?" Answer quickly, "Sure, I would love one." Or "No thanks, I am good." When you train quick responses, you train trust. And trust is what reduces overthinking. And when you make a mistake, practice recovering without drama. You can say, "Sorry, and then say it again." Or, "Let me rephrase that." Or, "What I am trying to say is." These phrases are like little rescue boats. They keep you moving. They keep you calm. They turn mistakes into normal moments instead of disasters. I want to share something I have noticed in people who become very comfortable speaking. They stop caring so much about sounding impressive and they start caring more about being clear and kind. They become focused on the other person, not on their own performance. And that shift changes everything. Because when you care about connection, you stop judging yourself every second. You become more generous with yourself. You laugh when you mess up. You correct and continue. That is freedom. So if English feels hard right now, I want you to ask yourself a gentle question. Is English actually hard, or is the pressure hard? Is the fear hard? Is the expectation of perfection hard? Because you might be surprised. When the pressure goes down, your English comes up. As we get close to the end, I want to leave you with a calmer way to approach speaking this week. Think of speaking as showing up, not showing off. Showing up means you participate. You ask one question, you make one comment, you send one voice message, you speak to the cashier, you say one sentence in a meeting. You do not need to be amazing. You just need to be present. And every time you show up, your brain learns, I can do this. I can survive this. This is normal. And when your brain believes it is normal, fluency starts to feel natural. And if you have one of those moments where you freeze, where your mind goes blank, please do not panic. It happens. Take a breath, use a bridge phrase, say, sorry, give me a second. Or, I lost my train of thought. And then start again with a simpler sentence than you planned. Not a better sentence, a simpler one. Simple is your friend. Simple is fluent. You are allowed to be a real person in English, a person who pauses, who laughs, who corrects themselves, who sometimes searches for words, who still communicates anyway. That is what speaking is. And the more you stop overthinking, the more you will hear your own voice coming through. Not just English words, but you, your opinions, your humor, your confidence, your warmth. It is already there. It has been there the whole time. It just needs a little less pressure and a little more trust. So the next time you feel that tight feeling in your chest and your brain starts racing, try to soften. Exhale. Choose one simple sentence. Say it. Let it be enough. Let the conversation carry you. English is not a puzzle you solve in your head. It is a life you live out loud. And you do not have to do it perfectly to do it beautifully.